just because it's going to be so long.
3:36.
Good afternoon. Calling to order the meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Elections for Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024.
There he is.
Thanks, everyone, for being here today. Our guest book over on the podium is our official record of attendance. If you haven't signed the guest book yet, I hope you will do so before you leave. Mr. Whitney, do we have anyone tuned in online?
Mr. Chairman, we got 3.
All right, we have 3 online, at least 3 online, because I know, or I have learned, that if you tune in using the public portal, we really can't keep an accurate count. But we appreciate those who participate in person and virtually. We always stream our meetings, so if you can't come in, please tune in online. The first item today is approval of the agenda. I hope everyone's had a chance to take a look at the agenda. Alrighty, without objection, we will approve the agenda by acclamation. Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to wait on minutes until Mr. Aceto is here. The next item up is office updates. Director Duncan.
All right. So for office updates, we have started training. So we completed early voting training last week, and we are starting election day training this week. So we will have that completed soon. We also had a successful mock election with the rest of the state last week. So we're ready with our data channel there. And then early voting starts on Thursday. We're going to hear more about early voting for the general election from Negi in a bit. We do have a survey out for collecting information about that. And Negi will tell us more about that later. But for this election, early voting starts on Thursday, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, here at 59 Woodfin Place. And then we will be open 8 to 3 on that last Saturday, which is May 11th. And then we also had 2 outreach events that we did. On Sunday, early, we went and had a booth at the 5K Get Out and Goat event at the Western North Carolina, WNC.
Nature Center.
Nature Center. And that was definitely rainy and cool that morning. And then we also completed our Choctaw cleanup. So our office used to be at 77 McDowell Street, which intersects with Choctaw, and we had adopted that street. We adopted it for 3 years, and we did our last cleanup last week.
All right.
And those are the updates I have for you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the office updates? All right, we are going to step back one item to item 2, minutes of the meeting of April 16th. Excuse me. Everyone have a chance to give the minutes of April 16th a review. Find out about those Taylor Swift ballots. All right. Without objection, we will approve the minutes of April 16th by acclamation. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you, everybody. Next up is item 4, discussion of budget.
Thank you. And Victoria Pickens is going to lead us through this.
You guys strong it up too much. Okay, so, well,
I've got every version of the budget that I have.
we'll compare after the meeting. So I first wanted to present the budget timeline, which is on the screen, and Kareem's passing out a printout of that. So we first presented the budget in December and to the board. Then we did a budget presentation to the assistant county manager and budget. We did 2 presentations to them. And then another one to the board at that point. We have since presented to the county manager, and I believe tonight the commissioners are going to look over the county's budget. This is their second pass tonight. And then in May, they will be presented the recommended budget. The commissioners will be. Then June, the commissioners will vote on the budget, and I think they are hoping to present that final budget at that point. And then the budget has to be approved by the county by July 1st. And then I am here because we, like I mentioned, we presented the budget to the board back in January. And then we gave you all an update after we presented to the county manager. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about the fiscal year 25 budget.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Is this the very same one that we saw prior? Has anything shifted since you handed out the last one we took a peek at?
No, nothing has changed since then.
I may need to just get it refreshed on a couple of things.
Yeah.
The contract services went up fairly significantly, and tell me again why that was, that very first line item.
Oh, an absentee?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Contracted services is our primarily, and you'll see all throughout the budget, that is our biggest category, and that is our seasonal staff help. So with bigger elections, we just need more people.
Thank you.
And you gave them a pay raise, correct? Is that
not the in-house staff,
not in this
no.
budget?
It was the early voting staff that we gave a pay increase to. The early voting poll worker, right? Is that what they call it? Yes.
Well, now it's all kinds of different
Yes,
names.
that's what.
But for
Don't
early
get that
voting at the
confused.
polling locations. Yes.
And we find that under contract and professional services, correct?
Yes.
Right, okay, good.
And I just had a follow-up question on Sally's question. For the absentee by mail, and I was probably distracted for a minute, but the contract services for absentee by mail would include what again? What kind of stuff? What kind of items?
That would include MAT team members that go out to facilities. It would include our in-house staff. And then also, we budget for ballot duplication in the board meetings, so that's included in that as well.
I just had 2 very small questions. Under, and I don't doubt these aren't completely legitimate expenses, but under early voting, I noticed that printing went up by $36,000 from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 25. I was just wondering why there was a increase.
I believe from 23 to 25, we moved ballot printing to that line.
Okay.
In the past, I want to say it was in a different category.
Or was that because of all those forms that you'd stashed away and then you used all? What
Yeah.
was-
Let me see.
Don't worry about taking a lot of time on this. It's a small increase in small items, so.
It'll be quick. And this could be the category also where we had a lot left over. And so we didn't have to add more, because for printing, you have escrow account basically, and we were depleting that.
So the increase was due to the express vote ballot stock, which we did have a lot
That's it.
left over in fiscal year '23.
And then the only other question I had was under mail management for office operations. It went up about $27,000 from fiscal year '23 to fiscal year '25. Is that just because you'll have more letters going out and postage has increased?
Yeah, I don't. That is, yes, the countywide mailing we'll have to do for the school board
No, okay.
changes.
And then just,
Wasn't that the increase that was requested?
Yes. Yep. Great memory.
Because I knew you were gonna have to do that mailing.
and then under election day voting, the phones, so did we not, does that mean we just didn't have enough phones, so we had to purchase some more? Because we went from 0 and 23 actuals to 5,100, so I was just curious, was that, they just needed some more, y'all just needed more phones? Or-
So we had issues with the landline service that we requested, and so they gave us a refund for that
Oh.
election.
Okay, got it.
Kathy, you had a question?
Yes, having difficulty hearing any of the discussion being discussed by Ms. Pickens or the other board members.
Okay, let's use our mics, y'all.
What are we considering professional services? In each category, basically, but what are we considering under professional services?
So in professional services, we have our equipment delivery, so that's in early voting and election day. We also have, let's see, equipment delivery. I
Cleaning
want to say
for
ballot
sites.
printing.
Yes. There is a little bit in there for court reporter if we needed. And you're looking to see if
Our
the-
computer rentals. The parking, traffic control on election night. And ballot coding, audio for the express vote, ballot layout, BOD setup. So it's mostly ballots, equipment delivery, and computer rentals.
You're talking ballots, those come from ES&S, so that's an extra charge to them.
Would it be safe to say that when there are modest increases from the 24 budgeted to the 25 is because, again, we are looking at a larger election, and so we just have built in the extra percentage, knowing how large it would be?
Anyone have any more questions for Ms. Pickens on the budget?
Looks good.
You know, we'll continue to have questions about this. And fortunately, Victoria is always available. So be on guard, Ms. Pickens.
I am.
Is that available online by any chance? Just in-house?
I am wondering, Ms. Moore, could you tell us when minutes of our meetings have been posted, have we attached any of these handouts?
I attached the resolutions, but I don't know
Okay.
do have an extra one, and we can,
Thank you for the question, because I'm going to follow up on the broader subject with staff. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just was interested if it was something that the general public sees.
Well, yeah, this is part of the countywide, county budget process, which is a public process and public documents. It's open to anybody, everybody. But you do raise a good question about what's available and when. So thank you for your question, sir. Cheryl?
Just wanted to let folks know there is a document request portal that Buncombe County offers, that if you put the date of the meeting and where you heard about it, if it's available to be shared with the public, they will send it to you.
Thank you.
I do have one other comment on the budget, which is that I am aware of other departments that have been asked to cut, and we have not. So that's looking good for us.
Can you remind us, please, while we're talking about that, you had sort of earmarked some places in case you needed to cut. Was that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you share that again? What were you thinking?
Well, are you talking about the contingency
Yes.
thing?
Yes.
Okay, so we do have that, and we did move that out.
Okay, so it's not in here.
It's not in this budget.
Do we want to share those?
Yeah,
or-
we can.
Okay,
They were pretty quick.
so, let's see. It was, the site equipment, if we needed to make any upgrades to voting locations, we have, equipment repair and maintenance, and so that's just office equipment. Building upgrades, so if we need to make any upgrades to our building, our office building. Warehouse equipment, like the manual warehouse lift, and the cage at the warehouse. The shrink wrap machine that tends to go down quite often. And then the plotter maintenance, and parts and labor for that. And we took out a couple of temporary positions for early voting and election day programs.
But those aren't the contingents, the things we moved to contingency. I think that's what
Yeah.
Sally was asking for.
This is where I'm showing for contingency.
It's in our budget presentation. Okay. It'll take us just a second. We've got it handy.
I do think it's worth note that you were asked by the county to increase your budget, which I don't think many departments were, so.
Awesome. Thank you, Victoria. So, so there was the building and equipment maintenance, which was what Victoria was talking about of individual things. Voting location rentals, we took half of that out, not all of it. The quasi judicial proceeding court reporter things, we took out some of that. And the school board redistricting mail is what we asked for, but this county asked us to leave that in. And then we talked about how we budget for staffing. You know, there's a budgeted amount that we want. We always aim for that, but we are not unable to hire when we want and the number that we want, so we reduce the budget accordingly to that too. But those are all things that we document and let the county know also that we're doing. So if we need those funds, we can ask for them.
Yeah.
Just, this is, budget process is fairly new to me, so what happens in the past, what has happened? Have you had occasions when you have asked the county for more? Do we have a problem if we ask them for more?
We have never had to ask for more.
So we don't really know.
This election, we might have to ask for more because of the second primary. We're
Yeah.
very, very close. We're very close. But they have always been very open to figuring it out.
That's good.
Yep, very supportive.
And if you need to make an ask, it's not going to be huge.
For the second primary,
Right.
correct.
So, no, under our director's predecessor, the budget process worked very well. And that has continued under Director Duncan's leadership. And I think the commissioners have faith in the budget process here. I know that the county management does. And that just helps the process.
Yes, sir.
That sort of consistency, high caliber work, which we appreciate a great deal. Thank you very much.
Mr. Quinn, sorry.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to show my ignorance here. You mentioned the paper. That is a dedicated paper for the ballot, is that correct?
Yes.
Does that go from election to election? Is it because the ballot is printed right there?
It's blank stock,
Line stock?
and so
Okay.
if it isn't used, you can actually use it the subsequent election.
Okay, so the majority, the basis of the question is, when you order for a upcoming election, whatever balance is left can be carried over,
Right.
and then you adjust for the next.
It's just these things,
Yeah,
except
that's-
they don't say example on the base of the.
And they do need to be stored properly. Any kind of
No,
moisture
that's
ruins
new-
the paper.
That's the new type for the new machine.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
The old
Express.
stuff
Yeah, this is-
that's old history, and that's
this is-
gone now, I guess.
The old stuff we have for
Election
absentee
day.
by mail, yes. So we use that system to print ballots for absentee by mail. So
And the
it's
whole
nice, we
basis of
don't
this
waste
question
any of it.
When you said about the increase in those specialty papers are,
Right.
and and again, I'm not an authority on it, but if anybody who has dealt with the U.S. Postal Service here lately, you've seen your post office box go up probably 40%. So all those costs are.
The express vote paper, the smaller ones are half the cost of the regular paper
But we are still using regular paper ballots for the general,
for election
For
day.
election
for
day.
election day.
Right.
Yep,
General
and
day.
absentee by
And
mail.
absentee by
Yep.
mail.
Yep, we will use all of that. And we try to keep a consistent ballot size too. In the past, we would switch between ballot sizes and then we would waste paper. We don't do that anymore.
Alrighty. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Pickens.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda today is a discussion of the election week schedule.
That's me. So I think it has been handed out to you already, is that correct? So we are looking at the schedule for the second primary. So that's this guy right here. And there are two changes that we are suggesting from two new laws, of course. So the first one is that we wanted on election day to meet at 6 o'clock, right? Because
Right.
we only have one early voting site. We'll have, it'll be easy processing. But the law says that we can only have that meeting between 2 and 5 p.m. So we're suggesting 5 p.m. to get as close as we can. We
That's
can't
good.
do 6, so let's do 5.
Okay.
So that is a change that we wanted to make. And then you might recall having a late Friday meeting that nobody liked. We still need to have that meeting, but we can push it earlier in the day. And the reason that we need to have that meeting and why it's different from the past is because the new deadline for challenges is the 5th business day after the primary. But if we're going to enter challenges and not enter them on election day, we enter them, we need to enter them early enough to give notice. And so I still think we should have that meeting on Friday, but we don't have to have it that late. So we're suggesting Friday at 3:30 to do that.
And that is.
And then we would reserve another day, Tuesday, the 21st, that's the actual deadline for the challenges. Not super likely that we would have any, but we thought we should reserve that date anyway.
Okay, and now if you could reduce this all to month and date.
Oh, say
Don't tell me Wednesdays. Tell me Wednesday, May 15th or
Yes.
22nd. Thank you.
So the changes are to Election Day, which is Tuesday, May 14th. Our meeting would be at 5 p.m.
Okay, so
instead of 6.
that's the absentee meeting.
Yep.
Challenges, count absentee ballots, and absentee abstract.
Except we wouldn't do challenges since the deadline is later now. It's the 5 days after Election Day. So we would move challenges to that Friday, May
On the
17th
17th, right.
at 3:30.
And that may or may not happen, depending.
That
on-
one, yeah, it's like, it probably will, but the one that may or may not happen is Tuesday, May 21st at 3:30. That's the deadline. So if anything happens between Friday, May 17th and May 21st that requires a board challenge, then we would need to do it then.
All right, anyone have any questions or issues about the two proposed changes?
Nope.
I'd like to make a motion that we update the calendar that we've already agreed to reflect the changes recommended by staff. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you, Director Duncan, and please keep us posted on future changes in the law as they might affect our calendar. All righty, next up is item 6. Deputy Director Fox will present information about early voting plan for the 2024 general election.
That's your copy. That's your copy. All right, so what I am presenting today, we have it on the TV, and I just printed the slides for you so that you all could also see, and a few other information in the packet that I printed, some maps and things. Okay, so I wanted, so as we know, the general election didn't change. What changed was the state board is wanting us to submit our proposed implementation plan by May 7th, so that we were expecting it to be in August. So they changed it to May 7th, and so we've come up with a timeline that we can hopefully meet what we were planning to do it, obviously in a shorter amount of time, but still have the main things included in our process. So on April 22nd, that was yesterday, our public engagement page with Buncombe County opened. So our survey for the early voting plan is now available. It's at engage.buncombecounty.org. It's at the bottom of the screen there. And I have repeated throughout every slide. So that opened yesterday, and people can go there to look at the handouts that were already presented to you all. We sent those to you, I think, on Friday. And the same information's been posted there. And then there's, I think, 5 or 6 questions that we're asking the public to provide us some information, some input on. Today, I am presenting to you all the proposed plan again. I think we've given you a preview a couple times before, so I think you know what it is, but some additional information for today. Then we're going to come back next Tuesday, and we're going to do a preliminary review of what public input we've gotten so far. And that is also the opportunity for folks to, if they want to say anything in person, they can also do that at that time. The actual public input survey will close on May 3rd, which is on a Friday at 5 o'clock. So, and we will come back on May 7th and do a final review of everything. Any new information that comes up through the public input, I will make you all aware of, and then the board would then take vote on the plan. Okay, so that is our proposed timeline. This is what we would have done over the summer, but we've just made it happen. And I want to give out a shout out to the outreach and communication team, the PRPR department, that made this survey happen. They created the webpage, they made the links, they've done press releases, they've put it on our website, you name it, we've had it all done. So they've turned it around extremely quickly for us, and we're very grateful for their support and making this all happen for us. In the next slide, you'll see the current mandates, and this has not changed for the last few elections. We're still following this. So the dates for early voting are October 17th through November 2nd. Our weekday hours that we're mandated to open are 8 to 7:30, Monday through Friday. The last Saturday, we have to open from 8 to 3. And then we are required to have uniform days and hours. So if one side opens, we all have to open. And so we make sure that that's what we do. So this is what we are currently following. Now in the next slide, you'll see that the board does get to decide on a few things, and those are the number of sites, so you all will make that determination. The weekend hours, what weekend hours we open, Saturday and Sunday. And then it does have to be a unanimous decision, otherwise it goes up to the state board for determination if we have a non-unanimous plan passed or not passed. Okay, so those are our parameters that we're working with. In the next slide, these are the considerations that we look at every time we come up with an implementation plan. We look at the data. We're looking at what have we done in the past. So we're looking at the historical data, numbers of sites, turnout numbers, how many voters we have, all of that information. We also look at ADA compliance as far as the site, suitability, parking, convenience to voters, square footage, stability. And that's something that I will say in the 8 years that I've been doing this, that has been my primary focus, is trying to find sites and places that we can use year after year to show that consistent stability, that people can know that, hey, if I go here, I know I'm going to be able to vote early, because that's what we're used to seeing from election to election. We've tried let's hope in one here, one there, and sometimes it just wasn't as successful. And I'll show you some of that information when we get there. Mm-hmm. We also have to work within our budget. You all reviewed the budget, and so what we proposed in the budget was 14 early voting sites for the general election, and so that's what we're working with. And again, you all can make those changes and make the final determination, but that's what we're working with. Other factors that we consider is capacity of the staff and facilities, available equipment. We only have so many machines. We only have so many scanners. We only have so many express votes, ballot marking devices, so we have to keep those obviously in mind. Current laws, numbered memos, and then of course public input. That's something that this is our third time doing public input, so we're getting into a good habit of doing it. I think more people will see it and hopefully increase that participation from year to year. Okay, so just wanted to make that known. So far, I hope I didn't miss anything, because I'm not looking at my notes. Double check I didn't miss anything here. No, I think we're good. Okay, next slide. This is I made a copy of you for this, because this is hard to see from here. So I made you a separate copy with a larger map so you all could see. So this map, what we've done is we've determined where voters voted during early voting. So each of the sites were color coded, and I say we, it wasn't me, it was Devin. I put in my request to Devin, and he made his magic happen, magically happen. So we marked the different sites, and we're looking at, this is the 2020 general election, so this is our most recent presidential election. And then and then what we've done is we've tried to determine where did the folks where they live in Buncombe County, they voted, where did they go to vote? So this kind of shows you the clusters of where some of these sites, where they pull their voters from. And some of these are very obvious. You can see, people in Black Mountain, they're going to go vote in Black Mountain. Monterey, they stick to those areas. So we did see some patterns. Certain sites are going to attract voters from that community around them. And then others, people from all over the county, will go to different sites, and that as well. Places like the Outlet Mall still pulled in voters from nearby, but not necessarily from Black Mountain or Weaverville. What we saw here was that it was just pulling from the different from the nearby communities. And so so that's what that.
Is that the Outlet Mall or the Asheville Mall?
That's the actual Outlet Mall.
Okay. 'cause
Yeah,
it just
now
says
Tanger
Asheville
Outlets.
Mall.
Well, we've got Asheville Mall, and we did the Outlet Mall, actual Outlet Mall.
Go west. You'll
go
see the
west.
outlet mall.
Yeah.
You all remember that, that we leased space at the Asheville Mall for the 2020. And then
Then
that
COVID,
darn
COVID,
pandemic
COVID.
happened. And so I'm sure Asheville Mall was very, very happy to have that space contractually filled.
Yes, maybe
Oh.
not physically filled.
Oh, well.
Yep, we tried the Outlet Mall as well. It has its pros and cons. And we've
One of these framed, it looks like French art.
This
Yeah,
is one
yeah.
of my
Impressionism.
favorite maps.
The,
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's-
the pointillism.
yeah, yeah.
Pointillism, that's it.
yeah. Oh yes, I gave you
On the like,
Well,
behind there.
Oh, behind here.
Yep, there we go. Yep, you all should have a bigger version of that one. No, this is not online. If you would like a copy of the presentation, our portal, if you'll use our public request portal, we'll be glad to send you all this information.
so I tell you what, I just react to something with me here.
So I have some notes about this.
Yeah, what do
Okay.
you know? Talk to us.
Okay, yeah, let me talk to you. All right. So here's a big picture. Based on this is kind of like what we're seeing. So most of the sites that are on here, we're going to use again. So we're going to see some of these similar. We're obviously replacing a few with other things, but what we're seeing is that. And then I have another map also about the turnout on election day that you'll also see that. But what we're seeing is that those outer, like way out here and like Sandy Mush and all of those, there's no major roads and the population is low. So it doesn't make fiscal sense to open a site with out that way, that far out, because of that. But now let's look at the Inca Candler Library, and that whole area there, you can see it's exploded. It's quite a lot. And we have done a few sites out there. We've done Upper Hominy Fire and Rescue in 2012, which is off of Highway 151, and that would be the main highway out that way. So and that's in and out, Highway 151. So we've done that before. We did it in 2012. The turnout was low, unfortunately. We've also done Avery's Creek, which is south on the left side of 26, where all those little clusters that when all those people either went to South Buncombe Library, they just went over 26 and went to South Buncombe pulled them in that way. We've done Avery's Creek, and that also gave us a low turnout, about 1,700 people. So what we have found in the area of Inca Candler, that area where you see those pinks, and is that there's not a lot of retail spaces out that way. You're more than likely that's going to put us either in a fire department or a school in order for us to have the parking, square footage, ADA compliance, and so that's what we would have to end up looking at. Then there's north in Barnersville.
Yeah, east.
Yep, northeast. We've tried a few places out that way. Jupiter, I think it's what we've tried, and a few other. The turnout was a little bit low, but there is a community center out there, Big Ivy, that could be a possibility as well. So that's something to consider, and that would be up. But as you can see, those folks concentrate obviously in Weaverville. And Weaverville's a happening place now.
There's also a fire department in Jupiter, isn't there?
Jupiter's a fire department, yes.
Right,
We've used
yeah,
that.
we've used that a couple of
Yes,
times.
we've used that, yep.
I have a question about
Yeah.
the coloration you have here. Is that showing actual voters and where they went?
Yes.
Okay, does the color show, that's showing actual voters that voted? That's not just showing the voting population in that area, right?
And it shows where they voted.
Yeah.
And the color shows you,
The voters.
Yes.
Yes.
so, someone out there in Sandy Mush, we're gonna look up in the upper left-hand corner for a sec.
Yeah, northwest.
And we see a few colors. And when Ms. Pickens was talking about the maintenance stuff and the big plotter, I want this on the big plotter so we can really see that
Yeah.
thing. But you see all the different colors, which means there are folks who live in that part of the county who, for one reason or another, their daily routine, or maybe they were voting with a friend in a different part of the county, but they go here, there, and everywhere throughout the county. They're in Leicester, but then I also see someone was at Harris Cherokee Center. I see a yellow one out there. I see orange, Atlanta Sky Regional Council. So this is a very, very handy plot. It just gives us a real clear idea of how people travel to early vote.
Okay, so you got any more notes?
In a couple more of the slides, but
I got
yeah,
some
but
more questions about this one.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
They kind of fit,
Yeah.
the other one that jumped out at me, I found very interesting, was your next picture, which is the election day turnout.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
I think
Shows
looking
that
at
these
those.
these corners that they're all white space on this map.
but if you look
They're
so in the
pretty
next slide,
Not in terms of voter participation. So how do we think about that in the context of early voting?
Well, go over this.
yeah. So in this
Yeah.
map, we're showing percentage of election turnout in the on this. So this was election day turnout. Right, and so the darker green is where you're seeing the higher concentration of folks voting on election day, choosing to do that. So yeah, you're seeing those outer. So what we have found is that those folks, right, they do tend to, if they live out there, they're going to vote on at their precinct, on their voting location. But what we're also seeing that these are low population. This is high elevation.
Like terrain.
Topography. And then we have limited road access. So, there's only, some of these places, there's only one main road in and one main road coming out. And so I think that also plays a role in how these folks determine where they're going to vote.
Jake, while you're up there, that one in the center that's dark, what's
Biltmore Forest.
Yes, they vote
Got it.
right in there. They don't
Biltmore
go further outside of their
And
little.
they can go anywhere. I mean,
They go to.
There they are.
South
Town
Benton
hall.
Library
Yeah.
is not that far.
No, it's not.
This
they choose to
isn't
vote.
always a function of availability, accessibility. Some of it is routine, culture. There are going to be neighborhoods that love to get together. This is one of them. They love to do it on election day. Those folks who built more for us, they must have a big party on election day.
They like to
But
congregate,
in-
have fun.
In other neighborhoods, it's just not gonna be like that, and folks are gonna early vote or absentee by mail. There's a lot of different factors that influence people's behavior when it comes to this stuff.
So our objective, if I understand it, is to increase voter participation everywhere.
Amen.
And that with that early voting is a tool to do that. When I'm comparing that map to the Pontilist
Yes.
map, then and it kind of hangs me up. And I'm thinking, okay, and you've given this interesting history about opening these sites that are more accessible to these
Y'all have the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
dark areas. So I think I take those three things together, and I see that either these corners would benefit from increased access to early voting in terms of their own participation, is one conclusion. The other is that they don't need it. Is it because they don't use it? Okay. Is it because they don't use it because they don't have it, or they wouldn't use it because they don't need it?
Thank you, sir, for asking the $64,000
What do you
question.
think?
And that is, what we want to do as a board and the staff is give the people what they want in order to vote. Because we want everyone who is eligible to vote to be registered and to vote. And we don't know with certainty what people's preferences are. And this is one of the reasons that I am so grateful that staff has really improved this process to include an element that allows public input. If there are folks who are in these heavily shaded areas for election day who are frustrated, I'd much rather do this, but there's no early voting site near me. I would love to see their comments come through in the portal so we could have the benefit of their perspective on this.
Okay.
Because we want everyone to be served.
So flip me back to the color.
The rainbow?
Yeah, give me back my rainbow. If you don't mind, I'm going to stand up and
Yes, sir.
work a little
Yeah.
bit. So I'm getting that, thank you, Candler, because this coloration included Asheville Mall at that
Correct.
point. But it has a lot of green in it. In other words, people who live in West Asheville are coming out here.
No,
No,
going
the
from, they
people
are
who
in.
live, exactly,
They're coming in.
into town.
Into town.
Right.
Okay,
Correct.
so the color means where they ended up. And where the spot is where they originated from.
Correct.
That may sound simple to you, but
Oh,
it wasn't
thank you.
simple to
That
me.
helps me.
So, okay, so I can spend all afternoon with this. I mean, this is fun. So, okay, but I'm getting that the folks that live here are sprinkled, are heading to east in order to vote. And the same thing with Leicester. They're heading east in order to vote. And I see some of that up here. These folks are heading south. Some are going way south to vote. Which I interpret as people are voting where they work. They're dropping off on the way home
Or their
from
grandkids
work.
live down
Or
there,
where
or
the
whatever.
grandkids live.
Right.
That's
You
right. All
know,
the grandchildren live down here.
Or it could be, shopping, grocery store,
Yeah, so-
pharmacies, all that kind of stuff. You're not gonna see that way out there. You're gonna have to
Yeah.
come in to get to those.
Except people who vote in Black Mountain, they're just so,
They ain't going nowhere.
they're a bunch of retreads. They're all right there.
They live.
So, okay.
He lives there, so that's all right. He can get
There's a
away
lot
with
of
it.
Yeah, I like the folks in Fairview who make the trip to Black
Fairview,
Mountain.
Even though, when you get up close to this map, Fairview is pulling a lot. Is a lot of their voters are heading
Just
downtown.
right there.
So, which tells me,
Interesting,
excuse me, sir.
Before you comment, and let's comment one at a time.
no, I'm here.
And I'm having fun.
No, it's just,
Hang on.
anyone who wants to speak in the meeting, please seek recognition from their chair. Thank you.
That's right. I do. He always recognizes.
Steve is
He's
great
pretty
at
good.
seeking recognition. Thank you.
Yes,
But I want to have a board discussion before I have the public
okay,
involved.
yeah, thanks. Let's do that. Not that I definitely want to hear, just hear what each of you have to say,
Amen.
because I'm searching. But, yeah, thank you. Okay, so, where was I?
Fairview.
It seems, we're well served by providing access in this central area. But the fact that there's so much color in a couple places here, different colors, is bothering me. Okay, it's telling me, it has me wondering, would these folks benefit from more early voting access? Or does the history tell us that they don't care? Maybe this gets down to how we direct, we make the effort to direct the voter comment and try and pull this out. Because I guess this bothers me. I mean, not that people shouldn't vote where they were. And this is either a sign of a great success that we've made it very accessible, or it's a sign that people are getting, that they're not finding it convenient to early vote where they live. Which one is it? I don't know. And so, but that's kind of a question I'd like to resolve. Is it that these are underserved on early voting, and that's why they look French? Or is that is this a sign of success? That we're actually getting people who are utilizing sites away from their home, and perhaps they wouldn't have been able to vote otherwise. That's a question I'd like to answer. We're heavily represented in this central area, which is heavily Democratic. We're less represented in this rural area, which is more Republican. But if the Republicans want to vote downtown, we haven't disfranchised them. So help me out.
What I'm hoping, just to reiterate, is that members of the community see the opportunity that is available to comment on this proposal and to recommend changes that they think would be worthwhile. And if there's someone who's out in Barnardsville who is just frustrated, I hope that they're going to send in a comment to us and say, I've lived out here for a long time. You never set up early voting, and why not? We'd like to use it. By the same token, if there are folks, and I'm sure that there's some out there who are saying, why do you have all these early voting sites? Why don't you just do it on election day? I live out in X precinct. Everybody votes on election day. Let's do it that way and save money. There's a zillion perspectives, and I can't pretend to know them or understand them all. But what I want is for people to share them with us. And again, that's why I'm so grateful that the portal exists. But folks need to know about it. And the county's working hard to get the word out, but folks still don't know about it.
How to increase participation?
Right.
Among everybody.
Steve, you've heard me since you came on the board, and I know some people take issue with this view. I think we have one performance measure, and that is voter participation. If we have high participation, we've done a good job because people know about the options available to them. They're educated on what they have to do to plan their vote and execute it. So this is why I love the early voting, because it boosts the participation, which I think reflects well on this entire operation. Anything we can do to boost participation is what I want to do.
Maggie, could I just interrupt for a second? I had two questions. I want to make sure I leave today with the answer, if you can give me. What are the sites we've used to the west of Inca Candler on this sheet? And which sites have we used north of Weaverville from this sheet?
Right. Let's see.
North of Weaverville, we used the Jupiter Fire Department.
Jupiter, yep.
And you're saying to the west,
We've used Pole Creek,
and Avery's Creek.
Avery's Creek,
And New Morgan Hill Baptist Church, which isn't a thing anymore.
yeah.
That's what, I'm sorry?
New Morgan Hill Baptist Church, that's also in Inca Candler
They
area.
don't
That's
exist
west.
anymore? or-
Okay.
It's got a
Or
different
east.
name.
It's a different church now.
Okay.
But
Lake
the,
Hills or something like that.
yeah, and then the Upper Hominy is also in the Candler area.
So the only one north of Weaverville is Jupiter.
We've gone as far as Jupiter.
I don't see any others.
I thought there was one more. Jupiter.
Yeah, not further
Okay,
north.
thanks.
No, we haven't. No, we
All right.
haven't. Big Ivy was something I did consider in 2016. I remember going out there.
Well, we may have done it.
And I can't remember what it was that prevented us from going there. Maybe it was a 2.5. That's a very, that's a happening community center.
It might have been budget. I mean,
It might have been
we actually
budget.
used 20
Yeah.
early voting sites
Yes, it might have been budget,
that
yeah,
year.
that year.
But they weren't all open for 2.5 weeks.
No,
So
we
it was-
opened them in stages. We opened them in stages. We did, 16 first, and then we opened an additional 4 more, and then we opened the only libraries on a Sunday. In the packet that's available for anybody to see, you can clearly see those where our hours were a little bit everywhere. But the
So
board
we-
had the ability to implement those types of things.
I'm sorry, we did not use or did use Big Ivy?
We have not.
Have not,
We have
okay.
not, no. It's something I considered, but we've never.
Mr. Quinn, if I just take one more swipe. We got 2 towers. It's high participation and high integrity.
Right.
If we don't have both together, then neither one matters. We have to have them both. And that's really, integrity is not necessarily the issue here, except to the extent that we are,
Everybody voted.
are obviously fair in how we go about this. That's the integrity
Right.
piece. So, and we're plowing through the middle of that. So keep plowing.
Okay. Corinne, you wanted to?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of sum up this. So I think everybody understands now this map that we're looking at right now is address points. So the color of the dot says where that person went and voted. So that's what we're looking at here. It also, because we're showing address points, it also represents population density for the county. So early voting sites work best in if our goal is to have an early voting site serve a lot of voters, they work best in dense areas. And this map also shows that people go to the site that's near them. So convenience is very important to voters. And then this map just shows that that's what people do. And so the north, east, and northwest corners are lower population. So barring having information about, a survey about how voters feel, we still have to make decisions. And so, in fact, the southeastern
East
corner
also,
is also
so
the same. So
low population.
Those are low population areas, and why they wouldn't be targeted under our current method for an early voting site. The Candler area is, definitely approaching a higher population. And that, if you look at, I don't know if any of you are keeping up with the county's comprehensive plan, the 2040 plan, but they have targeted areas in that plan, which are targeted for growth, and Inca Candler is one of those. Inca Candler, Swannanoa, and
Fairview.
Woodfin.
And just
And so there are definite, that area out there, it's just almost completely residential. So we would have the fire department, which never wants us for 17 days, and same with the school, are the locations that are out in that area. And then for Big Ivy, I feel like that community would definitely welcome voting. They do have a very active community center, so, you know, we'd have to make sure we fit into their schedule. Oh, I'm blanking on what I was going to say there. Oh, but we have not reached out to them. We have not made any contact. So that's just off of our, other experiences with them and community engagement through PR. So that would need to be explored before we could say that we could find that site.
Definite, yeah.
And just so I mean, y'all have said this, and I'm not sure I was paying enough attention, but the dots indicate the residential addresses of the people from where they come to vote.
Yep, so each dot is, I voted early, I'm a dot where I live,
And
and the color tells you where I went to vote early.
Right, that would be, the dot would indicate the residence, and the color where that person at that residence went
That's
to vote.
correct.
Okay.
Ms. Duncan, while you were talking about trends and the planning from 2040, I guess I'm also thinking about trends around early voting in general. And, I think it's fair to say that continues to increase. And so if we're looking, 4, 8, 12 years down the road, how do we plan for even more early voting?
Yes. So there is more in this presentation that will cover some more things.
Okay, great.
But since it has been brought up, we definitely should highlight that this was the presidential election of 2020, which was not only highest turnout ever, but the highest turnout for early voting. So this was heavily used early voting plan. So take that for what it is.
What percentage of turnout?
I can look up that
the
very
turnout,
quickly.
The turnout we had in 2020 was
Yep.
about 78.5%.
I think,
And so in
Right here.
terms of, Steve talked about the two towers, the integrity and then the accessibility, the ability to actually get there and have your voice heard at the ballot box. We did great in 2020. We had never had as high a percentage and never had as many voters. So, I am feeling, cautiously optimistic about how the Buncombe County, voting arrangement sits with the population. Something's working when you set a record. And I think the objective in 2024 is set a new record, an even better record, get even more people out there.
you can update that for early voting. So for 2020, remember where we were. We had a lot of absentee by mail. So we had 22% absentee by mail. We will not see numbers like that.
Promise?
Never promise anything.
Never
Not
say
going
never.
there. Not likely that we will see those numbers. And then early voting was 65% turnout. So the trend has been bigger and bigger for the general elections, that there's more early voting than election day voting. Primaries 50-50 about. But for the general election, there's more early voting than election day. Now, in 2020, it was only 12% voted on election day. It'll be bigger this time. Yep. People were really more interested in having that spread out. They didn't know what was happening with the pandemic. We had big sites that people could feel safe in during early voting. They could go when they needed to. It wasn't everyone compacted onto one day. So I think that also pushed people to early voting.
And I'm guessing someone is going to make the observation that we're recommending 14 sites here. We had 16 sites 4 years ago. One of the reasons for the 16 was we wanted maximum number of sites so people could be spread out. If we had more sites open for 2.5 weeks, then we figured people would have more flexibility to pick that time, that day, when they could go to the early voting site and not encounter as many people.
Yeah.
We don't have that urgency this time.
Thanks, sorry. And Harris Cherokee Center, we would never get that now. that was because it was pandemic and they were not using it.
I was shut down.
We wouldn't want it anyway. They were,
Yes.
I'm still mad about that one. We used Harris Cherokee Center for the general election in 2020, and they were working on Haywood Street the entire time and using Harris Cherokee Center, where I voted, was a pain in the neck. Anyway, no more. I wish they had told us beforehand. Oh, we're going to be working on the street, but they didn't. Oh well.
Tell us some more stuff.
That was more stuff.
Yep, keep going, Nagy.
Turnout trends.
Yeah, so in the next slide, I think we kind of looked at that one. This is, again, election day turnout percentage based on the 2020 general numbers. Again, I think we can see, again, the outer regions where there's low, we see low population, high elevation, and limited road access. Most people are going to choose to vote on election day, is what we saw there. The next trend that we're looking at, and this is Corinne's beautiful turnout trend. She does this every year now. You can just, this one just consistently, you can see how we mirror each other from year to year. We start out high, then we have a low, we dip down that second week, and then there's a couple of elections where we didn't open on a Saturday or a Sunday. That's why it's way low. And then we start to spike back up. And then we finish usually that last Saturday. It is less hours. It's only 8 to 3, so obviously you're only going to get so many voters in that time frame. But we it's lots of activity at first, then it tapers off, and then towards the end we see it coming back up. And it's we've consistently seen this trend from year to year.
And once again, that orange line is 2020. So remember, those are record early voting numbers. And that this pattern is very different from a primary pattern. So the primary pattern is almost inverted. It's low at the beginning and gets
then
high
as it progresses. Yep. So we're expecting the 2024 to be similar. First few days high, then it tapers off some, and then it picks back up when people realize, oh, I only got a week left, and it ends this Saturday, and the procrastinators come out in full force. So it's what we typically see. All right, so to kind of wrap it all up again, the proposed plan is the 13 early voting sites as of right now, which is what we have, opening that first and second Saturday, opening one Sunday, the second weekend of the October weekends. We are recommending the 10 to 3, one shift. This will allow us for one shift. So we typically, because we're open from 8 to 7:30 during the week, we do 2 shifts, or else we kill our people. Mm-hmm. So we do 2 shifts. This will allow people to rotate on the weekends and have a day off. As we get into that last push of that last weekend, and then of course the last week when we typically see an increase back up in voter turnout. This also allows us to, that first weekend, we're not proposing that first Sunday, we're proposing the second Sunday to be open. This will allow us to, one, catch our breath, do any additional, adjustments that we need to, make sure our auditing is on track, make sure we're good where we need to, so that we start that following week ready to go as our numbers will increase back up again. So it is beneficial for the workers and the staff. The proposed sites are in the next one. Obviously, all of these have been confirmed. I do not know where we'll end up in North Asheville. That is my obvious problem issue area where it's hard to find something. So that is still to be determined. And then UNCA, we're not sure where in UNCA campus they're proposing to have a place for us to use. So that I know it's on the campus. I just don't know where yet. But everything else has been secure. They know that we're coming. These are all have been used in the past. Nothing here is brand new. So we have that consistency again. Here, the next one is just again that population density and just showing you where those sites have been placed within those densities. Showing address density, just to see, where where we have high density, that's where you're going to have your most turnout. And so I feel like we've spread these out quite a bit, and we've target some of those main areas to ensure that we do that within those high density areas. In the next slide, this is regarding inclement weather. For the primary, we addressed this after our plan had been approved. And so you all voted on a resolution on what we would do if there was inclement weather. And so what I'm proposing is that we incorporate it into our implementation plan. And so we already know what we're doing if the event of snow or ice or whatever may happen in the fall. So we're following exactly what our resolution did last time, which is if county public offices or libraries close or delay opening, we will follow the county's directive. It will be our responsibility to make sure we communicate those delays and closings to the public. And then if we have to have partial closures where maybe one site is seeing different conditions than another, that would be up to the board to then meet and make that determination. That would mainly happen on Sunday. And I'm trying to think of what days. And maybe because county offices are open Monday through Friday, libraries are open on Saturday, so it really would be maybe the after hours or that Sunday voting where most offices and public libraries are closed in Buncombe. And then again, just to recap again what we're proposing, we have the 13 sites confirmed, we have our weekday hours. Here are our weekends, our 2 first Saturdays, the 1 second Sunday, and then the last Saturday we are proposing
November 2nd.
Yeah.
Not
Ooh,
October.
not 10. Yes, November 2nd. I'm going backwards.
Good catch.
That's
Thank
a typo. That's not misinformation.
No, that is me. That is me. I did not change that date.
That's
Thank
fine.
you.
That's fine. Thank you, Ms. Fox. Thanks
And
again for having to
Yeah.
cobble all this together
Yeah, Cobble
so
is.
quickly.
And again, at the bottom, the engage.buncombecounty.org is where the early voting plan and survey is located. All the packet that was given out to the board on Friday is there. The questions, all that information. Now, the PowerPoint, that's separate. Anybody wants that, we'd have to put in a request for that. But everything else is available in that on that webpage. That's all I have.
Ms. Brain, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question
I'll be there, yeah.
on the color-coded map. Is UNCA and Asheville Mall appear to be the same color to me,
Yeah.
or at least they're very close. So trying to figure out who's actually voting at
Okay.
UNCA and who's voting
we
at
just
the Asheville Mall.
Running out of colors.
Yeah.
In the rainbow. Okay. Yeah, those are very close.
They're at least for my eyes, they're very close. So I kind of like to see if we can find out, okay, this looks a lot like, are all these people way out here around the Asheville Mall voting at UNCA? I kind of doubt that, but if we could pick a different color for that one, I'd like to see that. And the other comment I had is on the voting day map. Obviously, to me, in the outer areas of the county, they're obviously going to choose to vote on election day because they don't have a choice in many cases. So I think that's a little bit misleading, because if there was one, especially in areas that we have not tried one, I don't think we have, data to say they're choosing to vote on election day, because that's really the choice they have unless they travel a very long distance to get into town.
Yeah, I think that's a better way of saying it. They have the choice of early voting, and they're choosing to vote on election day. That is true, but they don't have a site that's close to
Yes.
them. And early voting
I know
is
I'm
about
assuming it's
convenience.
Yeah, I can't
It
assume
is.
why. I
You're
mean,
Yep,
it's,
we don't know
totally,
why.
Opposed to voting, the early voting.
I'm just saying, I'm not sure whether they might choose to vote early voting if it was closer, because we've made it convenient in many areas, so people are saying, oh, okay, why don't I go ahead and vote? But that's not a choice that's out there. I did want to say too, on some of the sites that I've noticed on here, it's hard to tell because, for instance, at Pole Creek, it increased from 2014 to 2016, but we don't have any data after that. So maybe it would have increased after that as people got used to the fact that it was there. A lot of these other sites, they increase as people get familiar with them.
That is true. I do believe, though, Pole Creek was their availability. Because it's a church.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm just talking about the area.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
it looks like the area might have increased some. Some of them, we only have data for 1 year, so we don't know whether. And some of them look pretty good. There's, Murphy Oakley. That seemed Murphy Oakley and even the Montfort building. They had good turnout in those areas, but we don't have a trend.
Well, Murphy, Oakley, we've got East Asheville
Asheville
Library now.
replaced that one.
And that's just a superior site. We waited a long time for that thing to get built.
And then Montfort, again, I think that we used that particular site because they were in transition. This is before it was opened as the North Star Academy, what it is called now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to use it.
I think that one's going
And then
back
now
to,
it's
going back to a school.
It is now it's a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade classes school. Yeah.
I'm just curious, is there enough money in the budget to open another site or two, or is that, or are we
budgeted
maxed
for
out?
14.
Right. So there's enough for one and perhaps two. In the past, we've budgeted for X and ended up with X plus one, and it did not have a negative budget impact.
Mr. Quinn,
Mr. Osito?
this is just an impression. As I looked through it, I would like serious consideration to be given to the area west of 26. It appears at first glance to be underserved regarding voting, just based on how those dots are colored, and the fact that we have high participation in those far western areas. And the other candidate would be north of Weaverville. But it seems that when you further west you get from 26, the more you get people heading east to vote. But at the same time, we have high election day participation. I wish we could put artificial intelligence to work on this or something, but that's.
And I don't see why in the future we can't do that kind of thing. I want to remind everybody of one of the points that Ms. Fox made during her presentation, and that is so much hinges on the availability of sites to host early voting. I can tell you that we have used churches in the past. We don't want to use churches. If there's any number of voters who have issue with going to a church to cast their vote, we have a strong preference for public facilities such as libraries and schools. Getting places for 2.5 weeks, though, is really, really tough. And I can't recall a single presentation to our commissioners where there was a big development proposal where the developer came in and said, and look at the space that I'm going to develop for your early voting and other community activities. Because, no. I mean, it's just not a requirement in this jurisdiction, really, that public facilities be part of a development proposal. And it's one of those things where I'm really glad that the Blount County 2040 plan is looking at features like this. Communities need places to congregate for any number of reasons. I mean, maybe it's for quilting, maybe it's for voting, maybe it's for bingo. but we need places, and we don't have them right now. And I agree with you. We need more coverage in that part of the county.
Yeah, what's changed? Are there changes in facilities? I mean, Nagy, I'm sure you follow that stuff very closely. I noticed last boat, Gearing Creek suddenly pops up with this great big gorgeous facility next to the fire department. I didn't know it was there. You know, that doesn't seem to be on the list here because they all like to go to Black Mountain. But and what I know of the place, that makes sense. But you know, out here, you know, what's the trend? Are we seeing are there public spaces that are becoming available, like the fire department?
I think with the comprehensive plan, that the goal is to create those public spaces as we expand into these underserved areas. So those corridors that they've talked about, I think there's like 3 or 4 public libraries, community centers. That's something that is in the works. But right now, we're just not there yet.
And we use fire departments. We use B-Tree as a good example. But B-Tree's got a very nice public space.
Correct,
Included
and
in
not
the fire
all right. Some sites you've got to go through. You've got open spaces, but you're sharing it with the kitchen. And the firefighter, that's their home. They live there, and so we would be coming into their home, and you know when it's not as separated with it they don't like us there.
I mean,
You know,
B-Tree is
we
a
make
good
it work on election day. We make it work. B-Tree is perfect. They've got a door in and out of that building that's completely
I was
separate.
very much involved in
Yeah.
that space. And I know that that was one of the big discussions was
Yeah.
how do we create a space that will encourage the use, you know, the neighbors to come in and use our fire station.
Yeah.
You know, so that was
Some have done a really good job. Some.
But I don't know anything about the West. You know, what do you see out there? You know, is there something that we haven't used yet that we could use?
So I have 2 comments on that. One is sort of a broader trend that I feel like I've seen since 2020, which is more focus on emergency services and those kind of things. And so I think that fire departments, schools, churches, they are worried about security, and elections brings a lot of people in. So we've had more resistance. You'll see a lot of churches in the past, like pre-2016, and that just say no now. So there's that. I think that's just a national environment that we're in. And then the other, I just wanted to make clear about the comprehensive plan. That is, about steering the county in a certain direction for sustainable development and those kind of things. That is not the county committing to building things. So that that would be when we're looking at developing areas. And I'm getting a little out of my wheelhouse here. But Enka Candler is a place where they're thinking, well, there's a lot of movement out there. Maybe we need to put in sewer lines. Then that will drive development. So then what sort of code do we want to put? And they're having meetings now. They had one last night about these things. So none of this is set in stone, but they're in that plan. It does encourage community spaces, but it's not the county saying we're going to build community spaces. We're going to encourage that in whatever way we can.
Now,
Does that make sense?
all that said, we are assuming the continuation of a 20th century voting model. And there are any number of states that have abandoned the 20th century voting model, and they're doing all mail-in ballots and that sort of thing. We might do it on this little number down the road. So who knows? I'm glad that the county is looking at the establishment of community spaces. I'm willing to bet, but by the time they're all in place, we won't need them for voting, because that's just the way life goes.
We don't have to think about the 2043 early voting plan yet.
Right.
Have we actually looked, I know that you say some fire departments are just, it's hard. Have we looked at the ones in the south? There's
I've-
Upper Hominy area.
I've not gone that way. No, I have not. No,
Well,
I have not.
We've used
We've-
Upper Hominy Fire and Rescue in the past.
We
Well,
have.
that's
We use
basically the
Skyland on
area he's
election
talking
day.
about.
Yes, absolutely. It's right off Highway 151.
Right.
Yes. The last time we used it was in 2012.
Right.
And so we haven't gone back since.
I think they've had a new fire station since then, so.
We had low turnout there.
Yeah.
We were not good.
Also were kicked out.
We were not good stewards of the space, and
Truth
they
comes
did not
out.
want us
We
there.
would have to do some relationship repair.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
All right. Our guests have been waiting very patiently, I know, to ask a question or two. And I'd like to give folks a chance. Kathy, did I see your hand up?
Yes, but this gentleman has put his hand up 3 times.
Yes, sir.
Man, I could talk to you guys all day long, and we don't have the time. One question to you, man. Has the early voting sites gone down in number, is what I'm understanding?
They have.
We used to have 17 or something.
We've gone from 16, 20, back to 16, and now we're at 14. Yeah, that's what we're proposing.
And that is because, and is UNCA etched in stone now? It is, have we used that before?
Yes, we've
Yeah,
used it, yes.
We've
For
used
presidential
UNCA.
elections, generals, we've consistently used that every 4 years, yes,
So this
since.
gentleman's, I appreciate your candor on 2 points. So I'm a chairperson out in Fairview, and me and my sidekick, we actually drove 38-2. We drove the perimeter of 38-2. I had no idea how many people moved into that area and are disenchanted or are unserviced is the term I heard you say. There is nowhere out there for those people to come off of that mountain. If you take Grandview, the new thing they built up on top of Fairwaller, beautiful area up there. I don't know how many folks actually live in there. I looked in the voter rolls that are available. I think in a couple of the parties, the number out in 38-2 might have been, if I remember my numbers right, about 1,800 or so. That was in the 22 cycle. And then when you follow what we just saw on the screen, that number looks to be more than what we actually had coming out of that area. So I think with the question that the gentleman here brought up is, I don't think those people are being served. I think they feel like they're too far out. There's nowhere for them to go. They're not coming off of that mountain to go to Fairview Library. And I think that's probably happening out there, the Inca Camblers and the Black Mountain area. So I live right off of Cane Creek, right off of it. I'll bet. I mean, I'm right at my precinct or I'm right up at the library. Easy. For those folks, I think they're being underserved. So that's just, and then the more you guys dig into it and we try to figure out, the Red Cross takes a mobile. But that may be a legal issue to where we can't chain of custody and all that stuff gets blown out the window if you try to go out and get votes in their backyard instead of them coming to a secure site. Well, yeah, in the fire department.
That won't let us in.
Well, it just sounds like we need to hear from the public.
Amen. And I hope that they understand that they can come in here anytime, but that portal, now's the time to comment on that plan. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us what you see.
And how are we
that
getting the
disappoints you.
word out on that? How are we getting the word on the
There-
portal?
I'll let Director Duncan, I mean, I got a press release from the county. This information's out. The early voting plan was posted on,
Is it on the news?
The
Do we
website
get- I mean,
yesterday.
But people, where are people, I mean,
So it just
Go.
got posted yesterday. It just opened yesterday. We sent out a media advisory, and then I have media availability on Thursday. So we're trying to get we have early voting starting for the second primary. I'll talk about this early voting plan. So hopefully media will come to that, and then they all got the information. So if they don't come to that, they have the information. We've sent it to the party chairs. We have put it on social media. It's on the county's front page and our front page. Am I missing anything? It's county's social media and our social
ours.
media.
And in a week's time, we'll see some of those numbers about how many people have
Correct.
accessed it.
Yep, I will present to you some preliminary results at next Tuesday's meeting. What have we gotten so far, so y'all can kind of see where we're at. And then we'll review it again in the following meeting, yep. It actually closes on May 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I shared it to social media yesterday. I know others did. We want everybody to know about this opportunity to review and comment.
Definitely, especially since the period is shorter than we wanted it to be.
And that's another tough thing, because people aren't as focused on the election
now, yeah.
sitting here right now as they would be this summer.
closer.
But we will make the best of the situation and try to get as much public input as possible.
I did want to have one response.
Go.
So I just wanted to make it clear that the early voting sites, there may be less of them, but we also have less flexibility in hours in the past. So we had more sites, when we were at the biggest with the 20 sites, we only opened all the libraries the first week. Then we opened all of the others. But now we don't have that flexibility, so it's a different set of rules that we're operating under.
I'll add something else. We have a more efficient early voting operation today than we had in 2020 because we've implemented the express vote machine. And I'm very grateful for the success that it's had up to this point. The public has embraced it. But the transaction time is lower. It takes less time to vote. And so you really probably don't need quite as many places because we can get through the line that much more quickly.
Director Duncan, would you explain what you mean by different rules? Because we understand that, but
Got it. So, and Nagy might be better at this. So if I mess up, let me know. It has changed several times since I started in 2015. So it was not even 17 days at one point.
10 days. We were at 10 days at one point, then we were back to 18 days, and we were back to 17 days.
So kind of that length of period changed, and then we had full flexibility of the hours too. So we didn't have to open 8 to 7:30. We could open whatever we thought was best for our voters.
county.
but these are state rules.
But correct.
Yes, state rules. And then now there's the law that if you open one site, you open them all. So we can't do that open some situation. But there is still the flexibility in weekends
And number of sites.
and the number of sites.
Except it still pertains that on the weekends, if you open one, you open them all.
Correct.
Correct.
And once upon a time, the first time we did Sunday voting, we used 2 malls. There were only 2 sites open that Sunday, that first Sunday in 2012.
I think in
Which we
2016, we just opened the
flexibility.
libraries. I think it was only like 8 sites or something.
Yeah, we had flexibility.
Right, the board had definitely had a lot more.
Nikki,
Flexibility.
I just had one more question. I know we need to get on to other things, but in the area west of Inca Candler, are there any community areas that aren't churches or fire and rescue facilities or that are just community areas? I mean, I know that may take some research or something
I
like that.
am
but I'm
not
just
aware. It
wondering.
would have to take some research, yeah. But that's what you've tasked me to do,
Well,
to look west and
We-
look north, so.
We did, do a cursory look and didn't see anything obvious.
Mainly schools, lots of churches, and a few fire departments.
What about apartment complexes where they have voting, they'll have a clubhouse areas like that, homeowners associations where they have a clubhouse?
Not considered it, but that's something that, look,
It would probably be expensive, but it's definitely in the realm of considering.
Find some that don't have a gate.
Yeah. Planning would don't have a gate.
And up north, the two locations that have been mentioned are the Jupiter Volunteer Fire Department and Big Ivy. That's a community center, right?
correct. Big Ivy is a community center, yes.
I should know this, but is Big Ivy north of Jupiter?
Yes.
Northwest.
It's north and west.
Northwest of
I'm sorry,
Jupiter.
east,
Northeast.
northeast.
East,
Northeast.
up in the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Margarettsville.
I can,
Wow. There's just not very many people.
exactly, yeah, it's in this area right in
Near
here, yeah.
Barnesville.
Jupiter is more over
Yeah.
here, yeah.
And that map's gonna kind of tease you because a bunch of that space in there is the Asheville watershed
Right.
or the national
Right.
forest.
Forest,
There are many
Yes.
unpopulated areas in
Yeah,
Buncombe
and-
County.
Well, those people aren't voting. you know.
Kareem, what was the hotel, the Pisgah Inn, you wanted to?
And we're not allowed to register raccoons and bears and possum and,
Yeah, we are allowed to have facilities that gets tax dollars, so I suggested the Pisgah Inn, but
But October, November,
they're gonna close the parkway then, so.
yeah.
Kathy,
Can't
did you
do
have a
that.
question?
I have enough comments and questions.
Okay.
One was, you mentioned that you wanted to see that number for 2024 go from 78 up to 80. We looked at Common Cause at the results for the 2020 early voting over at the Wesley Ground. Almost 49% of the voters were non-white.
Right.
And yet we have only 2 voting sites down in the very heavily populated part of downtown. I will point out, having lived over in East End Valley Street, getting from that part of town over to the library, get to Friendship, get to Wesley Grant, there's no public transportation. It is not easy to walk over there. And so I would like to ask that you consider Harvest House. I don't know if you ever have considered Harvest House, Stevens League Recreation Center, and also about getting the word out. I have contacted Renee White, who's the head of the East End Neighborhood Association. I've tried to contact Keith White. Keith Young. I don't have his email anymore. Trying to let as many people as I know. Common Cause has got the word out to everyone who's on it.
I got the email.
Okay, so that's one of my questions. Why don't we have another site where these people live who don't have cars, who don't have easy access, who don't have public transportation? There are no libraries even on the other side of Charlotte. Do you realize that? There's no easy way for somebody to get who does not have a car. So that's one point. The second is getting more young people voting. It's great to have UNC Asheville. What about AB Tech? That would also allow some of the people living in the housing districts around that part of town to access voting over there. So those are the 2 questions, comments I wanted to make.
Okay, thank you. Putting those in the portal might not be a bad idea. I will speak very briefly to AV Tech. We did use it. When did we use AV Tech? 2016. A crushing disappointment. We had 959 voters.
That's one time.
Yeah, that was one time, and it got a lot of publicity. And you're looking at the big proponent of using AV Tech, and I was chastened by the fact that so few people used it.
And AB Tech, brings in people from other counties that are
Exactly.
not eligible to vote
In
in our
Buncombe
county.
County,
And so that would also,
Yeah, I'd like
That
to-
said, AB Tech did get their student IDs approved
Yes, good.
for photo ID for early voting. So, yes, sir, Mr. Aceto.
I just, early on, I think Sally was talking about, how do we take the long view and the idea that we're trying to influence things that trends that haven't happened yet. And I just wouldn't want that to be in the thinking there, is that, yeah, sure, there's things that maybe in the past didn't seem to resonate, but as you've often said, that we're really talking about helping people develop habits.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And what habits, what's our objective? What habits do we want to develop? It's a chance to articulate that. Anyway, I do want to hear with the public. I want to hear what habits they want to develop, if any.
Only good habits. Anyone have any more comments or questions about the early voting plan? Negi, thank you so much for.
You're welcome. I'll be back next Tuesday.
Yes, you will, and so shall we.
The show continues.
Actually, I have one interesting request. It's the little color-coded map. You're showing me where these people live and where they voted, but where do the rest of them live? In other words, those that voted on Election Day? The reason I ask that is, like Mr. Aceto said, there's areas out there I may be looking at and going, well, those people need to vote, and that may be right in the middle of the watershed, because I don't see it as the watershed. So
okay.
where do
Okay.
the registered voters live
It's-
in those areas?
Yeah, just a plot map
Yeah.
of households with voters.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Well, there's
yeah.
two things here. So the map, the heat map
Yeah,
shows
Yeah, that's
where
that.
people are, but,
well, that's just the highly populated
I
areas.
know Devin would really love this, but we could put like just election day voters on here in one color, because we know where they live.
That's kind of what I
They have to
meant.
go to their precinct.
Okay.
Mainly just to see where voters live, so I can see that big white area, we don't need to worry about because nobody
Nobody lives
lives there at all,
Just
you
the
know?
mayor. Theirs.
Yes, and I do think you'll still see the same pattern because of this,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's difficult to do.
Mr. Quinn, do you think that
It's gonna be very busy,
think
yes,
that the
Okay.
very busy.
commenting on the plan would benefit from some of this wonderful artwork?
There's no question about it. Visuals are very, very helpful. And I'm going to be following up with the gang here to see what we can get online. Thanks, everybody. That was fun. And now, the next agenda item is probably absentee ballot review. I can't find my agenda, so I'm
Yes,
just making a
that's
guess.
That is what it is.
Absentee ballot review it is.
That's me.
Hello,
Well,
Mr. Tate, welcome back.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I got bored in there. We were going to start with 17, but I managed to find a whole bunch more.
Say it ain't so.
I'm just kidding.
Say it ain't so,
Just
Justin.
kidding.
Say it ain't
Just
so.
kidding. No, we've tonight's pretty straightforward. I know you guys got a lot to do, but luckily there are only 17 ballots with ID. I'll divvy it up amongst the two teams again, and then that'll be it. Let's see if I can split along the precinct line here in case we have doubles. So, just over there, and there, and I got the sheets over here for you to review.
Don't have a list yet.
It's got the list right here.
Oh, you got one of those, yeah. And my contacts are fuzzy, so.
There you go.
Check
Go.
Well, we can do it. Yeah, we'll swap out this one.
Sure.
Like I said, try not to cut them. Otherwise, you guys will have to be my duplication team today. So, that's it. And we're doing pretty good on cures too. Like I've only got one outstanding, and I talked to the lady today, so it was just an ID issue. So that should be fixed in the next couple days.
And I'm gonna let you do Wally. Okay, reference. You like this reference? You like anything about that? Okay, good. All right, and the next one is, we have 2 Hinchcliffes in a row.
Yeah, we should just need to be 65 before it expires.
Hinchcliffes, not Hinchcliffes.
It's fine.
You're okay with it?
Yeah.
I'm sure it
Yes.
is.
Let's see if it is.
I'm sorry, that one is
That's probably a maiden name. Mary
And we're
Phyllis
going
would
to a
be her
different
given
precinct.
name, Mary Penland. So what have we got on the list? On the list? How she registered?
I've got Daniel first. Should that bother me?
So the address here. Let's see if I have an address here. It's a different address too.
Yeah, they say don't worry about that. Justin.
Justin.
Yeah, something kind of a small
We
thing.
have a difference in name here. Mary Phyllis, Mary Penland.
I think it's probably, yeah, I think Penley's
There's
just
no,
a
I've got the Mary Tuesday
name.
Once you submit.
Here, if you wanna open them, I'll check them.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
No, that's too, here's another, this, I'm gonna give you one whole, hang on a second, come off of me.
You see nothing in for,
Okay, here you go, this is
We're on
the
to
same.
50.1.
Make sure I'm orienting these in the same direction. Okay, there you go. This, now I'm gonna change, get ready to change precinct. Okay? Yeah, I do. Okay.
50.1.
Yep.
It's fine.
Okay. This is the only one in that precinct. Okay, now we got door. And then we have, judicial.
Alberto.
This is a
Two different ones.
separate.
This is the same one as that.
Yeah.
Signature. Names are fine. Yeah, looks like that's one too. Six.
Some of us have been hard to put up with.
I think that's, has to be me.
Yes, sir. I surely would.
Goes back to 15.
Wow, position. There you go. Okay, now we're getting ready to change precincts again. No, this is, okay, that's what God gave me. Okay, now this is what. Yeah, that's it.
Ralph Smith.
Yep.
This is a new precinct if you want
Yeah, I don't think those.
55-1.
I'm determined not to slice it for Ellen.
It's already a second primary.
I'm not gonna do it.
Okay. Oh, you could be one.
That's Evans.
Ralph Smith.
Right. Order roll.
You good with that?
Yep.
On the mountain. Kind of sort of, yeah, here it is. It's an interesting place. Kind of sort of, it's like the Blue Ridge. Assembly. Just east, just west of Blue Ridge Assembly. Go around and wind up. It's all kinds of interesting. Okay, here you go.
Yes.
Here's, this is another precinct, just.
They can't find, well, I'm in Montreal. If you send something, to Black Mountain, I'll see it. If you send something to Montreal with just my street address, I'll never see it. Did she have something to say? Yeah, I bet she did. About that. Where she got all this. I saw it. Really? Well, that means she's not thinking. Well, that's all right. I mean, there's not really slide. And just want to make sure we're having mess. Yeah, that, you want to send something to me. This is anybody that's trying, we can't have a PO box.
Here's her ID. Which handout?
Any kind of member customer. KYC stuff.
Yeah. Here's another set, 57.1.
Start checking for that name. Two more, I think.
That's a separate precinct.
It's salt.
Yeah.
What?
I know that one.
Oh, do you? It's interesting when you run into somebody you know. Yeah, we ran into one that AK witnessed. Yep.
That's just somebody.
We are not.
Need to sign that.
Okay.
Yes,
Just the last one?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. It's for 23rd, right?
23rd.
Yeah, not very good, but I would ask for it.
one signature there on that one. Who are witnesses? Thank you much. Mr. Chairman, if you will sign and then make the motion to accept those.
They got some contractor thing to take it over, and I think they could cover it.
We'll have the other envelopes ready for you in just a few minutes.
Thinking about it,
Thank you, sir. Pourquoi? All right. Is that? Great.
Did you see your picture?
What's that?
Did you see your picture?
Oh, I haven't opened it yet. I figured that's what it was.
Yeah.
All right, colleagues, real briefly here. Thank you for reviewing those 17 civilian absentee by mail ballots. I would entertain a motion to approve the 17 absentee by mail ballots that y'all just reviewed.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Aceto. The motion before the board is to accept the 17 absentee by mail ballots that were just reviewed. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0. Mr. Tate, quick question. I noticed that during the past week, we have had 12 more valid requests for absentee ballots. I know that we sent out a ton early on. Is this fairly typical, like a dozen a week or so that you're coming in?
Maybe even less.
Okay.
Concurrently, we are starting to see that influx change from this election over to the general. I would say it's probably 80-20%.
Oh, my.
That are asking
For the general.
For the
They're just
general.
going ahead, because as of January 1, they could have, so
All right.
that's where we're at on that.
Thank you, sir. I'll just remind everyone in the audience today that after this agenda item is completed, we'll recess and then reconvene down at 50 Cox Avenue for our machine testing. That was fast. I guess it was only 17 ballots.
Very efficient.
Also, here are the 0 takes in the total. Start with 0, end up with 17. 0, something.
I won't say. I know you are, but I will find it if you do. Checking to make sure it's not sticking out. It is a flash drive.
We're doing 1 day just to test.
Yep. AK does it with the minutes.
Of course, they haven't signed it yet. They haven't signed it yet. They might want to see if there's a flash drive
Oh,
in
sorry.
it.
Do this and just ask you.
The sticky is on that. I did check to make sure it was not a stick of gum. You can check if you want to, but you have to be aware of the sticky.
I saw Jake pull it out, so.
Okay.
good.
Still got the sticky. I'll hold it.
Sorry about that.
That one. You did that, tickle it up.
Well, no, it's counted them. There are 17. Did you check for signatures?
Thursday, I have to say, if you got a different party.
Thank you all.
All righty, folks, we are just about ready to head south to 50 Cox Avenue. We will be adjourning the meeting from 50 Cox. We won't be coming back here this evening. It'd be a little awkward to handle Q&A down at Cox, so if anyone has any questions or comments for the board, now would be a better time to ask than down at 50 Cox. Holly?
Is there an easy way to get from here to the warehouse?
You need a ride?
If you fly, it's pretty easy. It's been about 6 years since I was on Cox Avenue.
If you need a ride, let me know. I'll bring. If you need a ride, let me know. I'll bring you down. But it's at 50 Cox Avenue. It's right across the street from the bus station and Rabbit Rabbit.
Well, I've been on Cox Avenue before, I just don't know how to get from here to there. Without going back to Hilliard.
Yep, so I would go down Charlotte Street, take a right on, what is it called there?
Hilliard.
Hilliard, didn't it?
Hilliard. And you
I
take
think
Hilliard.
you guys are taking different ways there. Let me look at the map.
Are you taking Charlotte all the way
I'm
down
trying
to
Go through the circle.
Buxton or something?
Yeah, I'm trying to tell her the least amount of turns.
Okay.
And so, but it's hilarious that I don't know the name of the road that I pretty much live on. Like, by the stadium.
Oh,
You go all the way down there.
no, why would you go that far?
Because then you're
Oh, 'cause
just,
you can just turn right again.
you just turn right, and it's on the right.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. But what is the name of that street?
Stay out
Well,
of this
while
one.
you're looking that up, if anybody is going
Oh,
with,
just
I have little parking passes for our, the lot right
Yeah, you
around,
have one, so.
feel free to help yourself. And the board, y'all all have one at your place.
Glad you reminded me, because I put it in my book and I had to be digging it out and. One of those.
Do you wanna do the next meeting date here or over at?
It's 5:40. Okay.
Guess I'll wait for the adjournments.
Before we head out, I will remind everybody that our next meeting is Tuesday, April 30th at 3:30 p.m. In this room. And right now, it is just about 6:40. I'm sorry, 5:40. Thank you, AK. So we are going to recess now, and we will reconvene at 6 p.m. at 50 Cox Avenue. And I hope some or all of you can join us. We are in recess.